Imagine waking up one morning to find that everything you once relied on has changed. The job you counted on is gone, the relationship you cherished is no longer the same, or the future you envision now seems uncertain. In that moment, how do you respond? Do you sink into fear and frustration, or do you find a way to rise above it? Life has a way of testing us, pushing us into situations that feel overwhelming, unfair, and even unbearable. But what if I told you that happiness isn't something that depends on what happens to you? What if the key to joy, even in the darkest moments, is something you already have within you? The truth is, happiness is not found in circumstances, it is created from within. It is not a result of luck, success, or having everything go your way. It is a skill, a choice, a state of being that you can cultivate no matter how tough life gets. Today, I want to show you how to tap into that power, how to train your mind and body to experience happiness, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. Because real happiness isn't about what's happening outside, it's about mastering what's happening inside. Happiness is an internal choice, not an external condition. This is one of the most profound truths that many people overlook in their pursuit of joy. Society has conditioned us to believe that happiness comes from success, wealth, relationships, or favorable circumstances. We are taught that when everything falls into place, then we will finally be happy. But the reality is, happiness is not something that happens to us, it is something we create from within, regardless of what is happening around us. The biggest mistake people make is tying their emotional state to external conditions. They think, I'll be happy when I get the job, or I'll be happy when I find the right partner, or I'll be happy when life stops being so difficult. This thinking places happiness in the hands of things beyond their control, making it a fleeting experience, always dependent on what is happening outside of them. But here's the truth. External conditions are unpredictable. Life is filled with ups and downs, challenges, and unforeseen obstacles. If happiness is dependent on things going our way, then we will always be at the mercy of circumstances forever, chasing a feeling that seems just out of reach. True happiness is cultivated from within, independent of external events. It is a conscious decision, a state of being that is nurtured by our thoughts, perceptions, and emotions. The way we perceive our reality directly influences how we feel. Two people can experience the exact same event, yet one remains calm and content while the other is overwhelmed by stress and frustration. The difference is not in the event itself, but in how they interpret it. Happiness is not found in the event, it is found in the mind. Most people are unaware that they have the power to choose their emotional state. They believe that their emotions are automatic responses to what happens in their life. If something bad happens, they feel bad. If something good happens, they feel good. This way of thinking keeps them stuck in a cycle of reactivity, where they are constantly responding to life instead of creating their own experience. But in reality, emotions do not arise from circumstances, they arise from the meaning we assign to those circumstances. This means that no matter what happens, we always have a choice in how we respond. Imagine two individuals facing the same financial hardship. One person spirals into anxiety and hopelessness, believing that life is unfair and that they are doomed to suffer. The other person, while acknowledging the difficulty, chooses to see it as an opportunity to grow, learn, and find new solutions. Despite the same external challenge, their internal experiences are completely different. One is trapped in misery, while the other maintains a sense of hope and even gratitude. This is the power of perception. Training the mind to focus on internal happiness rather than external conditions requires awareness and practice. The first step is recognizing that we are not our circumstances. We are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we interpret and respond to those events. The moment we understand that happiness is not something that comes from outside, but something that is generated from within, we regain control over our emotions. Another crucial step is shifting focus from what is lacking to what is present. Many people condition themselves to seek out problems, focusing on what is wrong in their lives rather than appreciating what is right. This habit creates a mental environment where happiness is impossible because the mind is always fixated on what is missing. But the moment we begin to shift our focus to gratitude, to possibility, to the small joys of everyday life, our emotional state transforms. The brain starts to rewire itself to find happiness in the present moment rather than in some distant future achievement. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate internal happiness is through emotional mastery. Instead of waiting for circumstances to dictate how we feel, we can actively practice generating elevated emotions such as gratitude, love, and joy. When we wake up in the morning, we can take a moment to feel grateful for simply being alive, for having another day to experience life. Throughout the day, we can consciously choose to focus on things that uplift us rather than those that bring us down. And in moments of difficulty, instead of letting stress take over, we can pause, breathe, and remind ourselves that we have the power to choose a different emotional response. The mind is incredibly adaptable. Neuroscience has shown that our brains are not fixed. They are constantly changing based on our thoughts and habits. When we repeatedly choose happiness over stress, gratitude over resentment, peace over chaos, our brain begins to wire itself for those emotions. Over time, happiness becomes our natural state, not because life is perfect, but because we have trained ourselves to find joy within, no matter the circumstances. Happiness is not something we need to wait for. It is not something that comes when life is free of problems. It is a choice we make in every moment, a skill we can cultivate, and a state of being that is independent of external conditions. Rewiring your brain for resilience is one of the most powerful ways to maintain happiness, even when life becomes difficult. The brain is not a fixed structure. It is a constantly evolving network of neurons that adapt to the thoughts, emotions, and experiences it repeatedly encounters. This ability, known as neuroplasticity, means that the way a person thinks and responds to life can be changed. Most people live in a pattern of emotional reactivity, where their brain automatically responds to challenges with stress, fear, or frustration because that is what it has been conditioned to do. However, this conditioning is not permanent. By intentionally training the brain to think differently, it is possible to create new patterns that support resilience and emotional well-being. Resilience is the ability to recover quickly from difficulties, and it is deeply connected to the way the brain processes experiences. When faced with stress or adversity, the brain instinctively activates survival mechanisms designed to protect the individual from harm. This response, controlled by the amygdala, triggers emotions such as fear, anxiety, or anger. These emotions were necessary for survival in ancient times, when immediate threats like predators required quick reactions. However, in modern life, these responses often become overactive, leading people to experience chronic stress over everyday problems. Whether it is financial uncertainty, relationship struggles, or career setbacks, the brain often perceives these challenges as threats, triggering a cycle of negative emotions that can become deeply ingrained. To rewire the brain for resilience, it is necessary to interrupt these automatic responses and create new neural pathways that support a more balanced and positive outlook. One of the most effective ways to do this is by practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness trains the brain to become more aware of thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. Instead of automatically reacting to stress with anxiety or frustration, mindfulness allows a person to observe their emotions and choose how to respond. This practice strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Over time, this shift reduces the dominance of the amygdala, making stress responses less intense and less frequent. Another key factor in rewiring the brain for resilience is focusing on gratitude. When the brain is accustomed to scanning for problems, it develops a negativity bias, meaning it gives more attention to threats and difficulties than to positive experiences. This bias is an evolutionary mechanism meant to protect against danger. But in modern life, it can lead to chronic dissatisfaction and unhappiness. By intentionally practicing gratitude, the brain can be trained to recognize and appreciate positive aspects of life, no matter how small. Studies have shown that people who regularly express gratitude experience increased activity in the brain's reward centers, leading to a greater sense of well-being. Gratitude shifts attention away from what is lacking or difficult and redirects it toward what is working and what is good. This change in focus creates lasting neural connections that support resilience, making it easier to remain emotionally stable in the face of challenges. Visualization is another powerful tool for rewiring the brain. When a person repeatedly imagines themselves responding to challenges with strength, calmness, and confidence, the brain begins to accept this as a normal response. Mental rehearsal activates the same neural circuits as real experiences, strengthening the pathways that lead to resilience. This is why athletes, performers, and successful individuals use visualization techniques to prepare for high pressure situations. The brain does not always distinguish between imagined and real experiences, so by repeatedly visualizing positive responses to adversity, a person can train their brain to react differently in real life situations. Breathing exercises and physical movement also play an essential role in rewiring the brain. When faced with stress, the body often enters a fight or flight state, increasing heart rate and tension. Deep breathing and movement, such as yoga or exercise, signal to the brain that the body is safe, reducing stress hormone levels and promoting a sense of calm. These practices strengthen the connection between the body and mind, helping to regulate emotions more effectively. Over time, regularly engaging in these activities reinforces neural pathways associated with relaxation and balance, making it easier to maintain resilience even in difficult times. Another fundamental aspect of brain rewiring is the power of self-talk. The words people use internally shape their emotional experiences. When someone constantly tells themselves they are overwhelmed, incapable, or stuck, their brain reinforces these beliefs and creates emotions that align with them. However, by shifting self-talk to more empowering and positive language, new patterns can be established. Repeating affirmations such as, "I am strong," "I can handle this," or "I always find a way forward," rewires the brain to support resilience rather than stress. The subconscious mind absorbs these statements and begins to create emotional states that reflect them. Developing resilience is not about avoiding difficulties, but about changing the way the brain processes and responds to them. By consciously practicing mindfulness, gratitude, visualization, movement, and positive self-talk, the brain gradually shifts away from patterns of fear and stress toward a state of balance, strength, and emotional stability. The more these practices are repeated, the stronger the neural pathways become, making resilience a natural and automatic response. When life presents challenges, most people unknowingly shift into survival mode, operating from a state of fear, stress, and reaction. This is a deeply ingrained biological response, developed over thousands of years to help humans navigate danger. In ancient times, survival mode was essential. It allowed early humans to react quickly to threats such as predators or environmental dangers. However, in modern life, this response is often triggered by situations that are not truly life-threatening. Financial struggles, relationship issues, work pressure, or uncertainty about the future can activate the same physiological reactions as if one were being chased by a wild animal. The body releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, the heart rate increases, and thoughts become fixated on potential dangers. This state of being drains energy, narrows perception, and makes it difficult to experience happiness, creativity, or peace. Survival mode operates on deeply programmed mental patterns. When people are in this state, their thoughts revolve around what might go wrong, what they need to fix, or how to protect themselves from perceived threats. Their focus becomes limited to short-term problems rather than long-term possibilities. This is why, when people are overwhelmed, they struggle to think clearly, make rational decisions, or envision a better future. Their brain is wired to look for danger rather than solutions, keeping them stuck in cycles of fear, worry, and emotional reactivity. When someone lives in survival mode for extended periods, their body and mind become conditioned to expect stress. This creates a feedback loop where negative emotions reinforce negative thoughts, and those thoughts reinforce emotional distress. Over time, this pattern becomes a way of life, making it difficult to access feelings of joy, hope, or inspiration. The key to breaking free from survival mode is shifting into creation mode. Unlike survival mode, which is based on reacting to circumstances, creation mode is about actively shaping life from an elevated state of awareness and intention. Instead of focusing on problems, creation mode shifts attention toward possibilities. Instead of reacting with fear, it encourages responding with clarity, purpose, and vision. When people enter creation mode, their brain functions differently. Rather than being controlled by the primitive survival instincts of the past, they activate higher cognitive functions that allow them to think critically, imagine new solutions, and take inspired action. One of the first steps to shifting into creation mode is recognizing the signs of survival mode. When stress and fear become dominant emotions, when thoughts are centered on worst case scenarios, and when the body feels tense or exhausted, these are indicators that the mind is stuck in a reactive state. The moment this awareness arises, a new choice becomes available. Instead of allowing stress to dictate responses, it is possible to pause, breathe, and intentionally shift attention toward a different state of being. This requires a deliberate decision to stop feeding the mind with thoughts of fear and instead focus on thoughts of possibility and empowerment. Physiological state plays a crucial role in this shift. The body and mind are deeply connected, meaning that changing physical states can directly influence emotional and mental states. Deep breathing, relaxation techniques, movement, and even smiling can signal to the brain that it is safe, reducing the stress response and allowing for a shift in perception. When the nervous system calms down, the brain is no longer flooded with stress hormones, making it easier to think clearly and engage with life from a more creative and empowered place. Visualization is another powerful tool for shifting into creation mode. The mind does not always distinguish between real and imagined experiences. When someone repeatedly visualizes themselves thriving, succeeding, or feeling joyful, the brain starts to rewire itself to align with those possibilities. This is why elite athletes and high achievers use mental imagery as part of their training. It programs the mind for success. When people visualize themselves overcoming challenges, finding solutions, and feeling confident, they activate the same neural pathways that would be used in real-life situations. Over time, this practice creates a mental blueprint for a new reality, helping to break free from habitual survival-based thinking. Emotional regulation is also essential in shifting from survival to creation mode. Since survival mode is driven by lower frequency emotions like fear, anger, and stress, it is important to consciously cultivate higher frequency emotions like gratitude, joy, and love. These elevated emotions have a profound effect on the brain and body. Research shows that feelings of gratitude can reduce stress, increase resilience, and even shifts from frustration to appreciation. Their entire physiological state changes. Instead of being caught in a loop of negativity, they begin to operate from a place of balance and well-being. This shift is not about ignoring challenges, but about changing the internal response to them. Language and self-talk play a significant role in reinforcing survival or creation mode. The words people use shape their internal experience. When someone repeatedly says, "This is too hard," "I'll never figure this out," or "Nothing ever works out for me," their brain believes those statements and creates emotions that match. However, when they consciously shift to statements like, "I am capable," "I always find a way," or "Every challenge is an opportunity," their brain begins to rewire itself to support those beliefs. The more these positive affirmations are reinforced, the stronger the neural connections become, making it easier to sustain a creative and empowered mindset. Taking intentional action is another way to solidify the shift from survival to creation mode. Fear often leads to inaction, causing people to stay stuck in patterns of hesitation and doubt. However, even small, purposeful actions can disrupt these patterns and create momentum toward new outcomes. When someone begins to take steps toward their goals, even in uncertainty, they build confidence and reinforce a sense of control over their life. Action signals to the brain that they are moving forward rather than staying trapped in fear-based thinking. The shift from survival to creation mode is not a one-time event, but a continuous practice. The mind will always try to revert to old patterns, especially when faced with new challenges. However, with consistent effort, awareness, and intentional practice, it becomes easier to stay in a state of creation rather than reaction. The more time spent in creation mode, the more natural it becomes, transforming life from a cycle of stress and fear into one of inspiration, possibility, and fulfillment.